Ramblin Man here. It's another beautiful evening in the state of Texas. So as I'm driving here, I was thinking about all the stuff going on with voting right now. You know, everybody can make it about whatever you want to. You can say it's racist. That's the stupidest thing I've heard in my life. So one of the things is they will say that it's racist, that people that are, when they say racist, what they're trying to really say is that people of color cannot get to a poll in order to vote, which I call bullcrap, because I don't know any of my friends of color that have had any problem getting to the poll. The other thing they'll say is that people that live in rural areas are unable to get voter IDs. Look, my family lives in the smallest of places, out in the middle of the boonies, out in the middle of nowhere, and they all have IDs. So that's bullcrap. And we're talking about my redneck side, you know what I mean? Like, come on now. Yeah, I've got to be kidding me. On my Mexican side, all of them have IDs too. Imagine that. Can you imagine that everything's a ploy just to keep things, when it comes down to it, if there was really an issue with voting, we haven't, all throughout our years, haven't had any problem. All of a sudden now, hey, we should mail this stuff in. And we don't have to have any ID to mail it in. So they're asking for people to have IDs, ID proof, in order to mail stuff in, okay? Have you tried buying alcohol, tobacco, lottery tickets? Amazingly, if you ask people that are rural, in a rural area, or people of color, guarantee you they have no problem getting alcohol or tobacco in those places. Why is that? Because they have IDs. Because, see, it requires an ID in order to purchase those things. So I just think it's a bunch of BS. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and some of you will try to, because you'll be like, well, you know, they're making this harder because you can't give people water. Nope. Read what they're talking about. It has nothing to do about giving water. It's about pushing for somebody, you know, people sitting there telling you who you should vote for right up to the door. Hey, make sure you vote for. Nope, you're not. That's not allowed. They're not saying you can't have a drink. Come on now. So here's what's going on in the state of Texas. The Democrats, because the House is trying to vote on voting bills. Well, in order to avoid having to vote, they're trying to flee. So the Democrats are planning on getting 2 chartered planes and flying up to D.C. Some of them will make their own way, but there's like 63 or 53, I can't remember. I think it's 53 different Democrats that are trying to leave and go to D.C. Now, here's the problem. And here in Texas, knowing they're the state that I love, and I love the way they just do things that differently than all the rest of the wussified world. So when these Democrats leave, they can, by law, be required to return, or they can be arrested and brought back from D.C. back to the capital of Texas. Because what will happen is they'll flee, they'll run away, get out of state, and then that bill will eventually die because they won't have to come back till the end of the session, or till the vote's just no longer good, okay? So that's the stupidest crap. If the Republicans did that, you'd never hear the end of it. And the last time this happened was like 2003, something like this happened. But I can see right now, people are so fed up. I can see the state of Texas, they can get their public safety, the DPS and stuff like that, and deploy them to go pick them up, which I can see them doing. So again, this is just another ploy. If you're not worried about winning legally, like people say all the time, well, this is how people win illegally. Why? Because you only want to count the votes that people vote. So what you're telling me is all these Democrats, the Republicans don't have any people of color. They don't have anybody in the rural areas. They're all Democrats. Is that why we're having an issue with this? Because you're fighting like all your Democrats live in poor neighborhoods and in rural areas, and that's what it seems like. So if you're not really worried about where they're coming from, because I'll tell you, in the state of Texas, which is a red state, if you look in all the rural areas where most of our red votes come from, guess what? Red. Red, red, red. Mostly Republicans throughout the state of Texas, except in the big metro areas, which are blue because you have all the liberals moving there because they don't know how to live out in the country. So you have all these Republicans. So by us going through and reducing, if this is accurate by a Democrat's viewpoint, if it's accurate that rural areas will not have access to vote, then really you'd be lessening the Republican vote, right? In the state of Texas, that would be accurate. I think Oklahoma would be that way, Arkansas. So I just don't understand how this is. Really what it is you don't want any of these things like mail-in ballots taken care of, and any extra IDs, because then you can send in dead people's votes. You can send in all kinds of things. And you can say whatever you want to say to convince me otherwise, but you're not going to convince me otherwise, because I've just seen too much crap between people, the Democrats pushing for lotteries to get vaccines done. I mean, come on, they're having drawings up in Michigan. You could be part of the $50,000 we're giving away each week by just signing up to get a free vaccine. Man, if you are looking for elimination, okay, go ahead. They're doing exterminating people. You know what? If you're a Democrat, go ahead and sign up then, because they're just going to lose more voters this way. And they try to claim that there's no vaccinated people getting the COVID. That's bullcrap too. So there's just so much going on. I'm telling you, check out this bill, the voting bill though, and look it up. Just look up Democrats fleeing Texas to avoid voting for voting bills, because that's just read it. You're gonna be like, are you freaking kidding me? None of their arguments really stand up. They don't come up as racist, and they don't come up as hurting the rural community, which would vote mostly Republican anyway. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think, because I'm very curious. Ramblin' Man out.